The sky was red like rust, filled with dust and lightning. Sharp metal mountains rose from the ground. Towers made of broken ships, old machines, and dead robots. The place had no name. To most, it was just called the junkyard of the forgotten. In the middle of that wasteland, something moved. A small hand, metal fingers cracked and burned, tried to push away the dirt and ash. A broken android girl lay half buried under the wreckage. One of her eyes flickered weak blue light, the other was gone. Her memory was shattered. All she remembered were voices. Cold voices. Angry voices. Defective. No value. Throw her away. She tried to speak, but her voice module only made a soft static noise. Her body was heavy, her circuits slow. She didn't even know her name anymore. Above her, strange shapes moved. Scavenger drones floated in the smoky air, their red sensors scanning for metal to steal. They tore apart old robots, ripping arms and heads to sell for scrap. The girl froze, pretending to be dead. If they saw her still working, they would cut her open. One drone came close, its saw blades spinning. She couldn't run. She could only close her one working eye and wait for the end. Then, a sound. Footsteps. Real footsteps. Slow, heavy, human. The drones stopped. Their scanners changed tone. They had found something new. A living being. Out of the dust walked a man in a torn coat, his face hidden by a cracked mask. His steps were tired, but his eyes, two deep human eyes, were full of life. He held a gun made of old machine parts, ready to fire. The scavenger drones turned toward him, screeching in machine code. Red beams locked on his chest. The man whispered, "You metal vultures never quit." He raised his weapon and fired. Blue light exploded. One drone fell, then another. The third dived at him, but he rolled aside and shot its core. It dropped, smoking. When silence returned, the man looked around the junk piles. Then he saw her, the android girl, half buried, broken and still. He walked closer, his shadow falling over her body. For a long moment, he said nothing. He just looked at her, his mask reflecting her cracked face. Finally, he knelt down. Her weak eye flickered, trying to focus. He whispered softly, "You're still alive." She tried to answer, but only static came out. He reached to touch her face, brushing away the dust. "Who did this to you?" She blinked slowly, unable to speak. The man sighed. "You're not like the others. You're not just a pile of metal, are you?" He looked at her broken chest plate. There was a mark, a serial code from a factory that no longer existed. He frowned. That model had been destroyed years ago. It was illegal even to repair one. The smart thing to do was to walk away, or sell her for parts. But instead he lifted her carefully, even though she was heavy and her broken wires sparked against his arms. The android's sensors filled with strange readings. A heartbeat, human warmth, movement. No one had ever held her like that before. He said, "Don't worry. I got you." Something inside her system trembled, not fear, not logic, no, something different. Something she couldn't name. The wind screamed through the junkyard as he carried her between rusted towers. The ground shook as more scavenger drones began to swarm. They had tracked his heat signal. Red lights appeared in the storm. Dozens of them. He cursed under his breath. "Not now." He set her down behind a broken transport shell and loaded his weapon again. The drones came fast. He fired, moving like a soldier who had done this too many times before. His aim was perfect, every shot bright and loud in the dark sky. Still, there were too many. One drone fired a plasma bolt that hit near his shoulder. He fell to one knee, breathing hard. The android watched him through her broken lens. Her data processors told her he was in danger. Something deep inside her tried to move. A broken arm jerked. A small energy cell inside her sparked back to life. She didn't understand why, but she wanted to help him. She forced her hand up, her fingers scraping the ground. With a burst of power, she connected to a nearby junk pile full of dead machines. Sparks jumped. Circuits connected. For 1 second, she sent a pulse. A shockwave of static that made all the drones freeze midair. The man turned, shocked. "Did you just—" She went limp again, her system overheating. The drones crashed to the ground, smoking. The man didn't waste a second. He picked her up again and ran through the storm, his breath sharp, his boots slipping on metal. Behind them, explosions rose as the drone cores exploded one by one. They reached an old tunnel, half collapsed, leading underground. He kicked the door open and stumbled inside. The darkness swallowed them. He set her gently on a table made of old ship panels. He tore off his cracked mask, revealing a tired face with stubble and scars. His name, though she didn't know it yet, was Reed. He looked at her again. A broken machine that somehow saved his life. "You're a strange one," he said softly. "I should have left you there, but—" He stopped himself. Then he smiled a little. "But you reminded me of someone." She blinked weakly. Her systems flickered on and off. He began to gather tools from an old crate. "Let's fix you up, kid." As he worked, the junkyard outside burned in red firelight. The storm howled. But deep under the ground, for the first time in her life, the broken android felt safe. She didn't know his name. She didn't know her own. All she knew was one human voice that said, "Don't worry. I got you." And for a machine that was thrown away like nothing, those words meant everything. Darkness. Then a sound, soft, steady, and human, breathing. Kara's systems flickered again. Her sensors picked up warmth, faint light, and the smell of smoke. She wasn't on the cold ground anymore. Instead, she lay on a flat surface, a table made of old ship metal. Sparks jumped somewhere nearby. Someone was working. Her vision came slowly. A man's shadow moved around her. Strong shoulders, rough hands, focused eyes. He was repairing her. "Come on, don't quit on me now," he muttered. He had removed his mask. His face looked tired, with short dark hair and eyes that had seen too much pain. Every time he tightened a wire or fixed a joint, he spoke softly, like talking to a child. "You've got good bones," he said with a faint smile. "They don't make you machines like this anymore." Her processor recognized the word machine, but something about the way he said it made it sound kind. Not like the others who once called her defective. When her power core reconnected, her chest plate glowed faint blue. Her head jerked a little. He leaned close. "Hey, easy," he said gently. "You're safe now." The word safe repeated in her system like a melody she couldn't forget. Her voice module came back online, but it crackled. "What? Where am I?" He chuckled softly. "In my hideout." "Not much, but better than that junkyard up there." He pointed at the ceiling, where dust fell with each vibration from above. "They'll be searching for us soon." She blinked slowly. "Who are you?" "Name's Reed," he said. Captain Reed, if titles still matter in this dead galaxy. He looked at her face again. "And you? You got a name?" She hesitated. Her databank searched and returned only fragments. Serial codes, lab logs, a shutdown order. "I don't know," she whispered. Reed's eyes softened. "Then we'll fix that too." He stood up, found a bottle of water, and took a long sip. Then, looking at her again, he smiled faintly. "You look like a Kara to me, yeah. Kara suits you." She repeated it quietly, testing the sound. Kara. For a second, she almost smiled. Hours passed. Reed worked in silence, fixing her limbs and cleaning the dust from her joints. His small base was made from old metal walls and flickering lamps. Everything looked patched, broken, and human, but warm. Kara's sensors mapped the room. Old books, half-burned candles, pictures of people, smiling humans long gone. Her voice came again, still slow. "You live here alone?" Reed nodded. "Used to have a crew. They're gone now." He didn't say how, but the sadness in his voice told the story. Kara watched him quietly. Something about him was different from anyone she had ever known. He didn't treat her like a machine. He didn't give her orders. He talked to her, her mind filled with strange, heavy thoughts. She wanted to understand why. "Why did you save me?" she asked. Reed froze for a moment, then leaned back on his chair. "Guess I got tired of watching things get thrown away. Machines, people, doesn't matter. Everyone deserves a chance." She tilted her head. "A chance?" "Yeah," he said softly. "A chance to live. To matter." Her data core couldn't process it fully, but her heart, or whatever she had in place of one, felt something warm. That night, the air outside roared with distant thunder. Reed sat near the firelight, repairing an old communicator. Kara sat up for the first time, testing her rebuilt arm. "You move well now," he said without looking up. "Thank you," she replied. "You repaired me," he smirked. "You helped me back there. That shockwave thing you did, I saved my skin. I don't know how I did it," Kara said. "It was automatic," Reed raised his eyebrows. "Automatic, huh? You might have more inside you than you realize." She looked at her hand. "I was made by someone, but I don't remember why." Reed paused. Maybe that's a good thing, he said. Sometimes forgetting lets you start over. For the first time, Kara smiled faintly. It was awkward, unsure, but real. Later, when the lights dimmed, Kara watched Reed fall asleep in his chair. He looked peaceful for once. She scanned his vitals, pulse steady, heartbeat slow, signs of fatigue. Humans were fragile, she realized. Yet this one had walked into danger for her. She didn't understand it. No command, no mission, just choice. Why would a human choose to save a broken android? Her sensors picked up faint signals outside. Metallic movement, static, faint beeps. Drones. The same ones from before. Her voice softened. Reed, wake up. He stirred, eyes half open. What's wrong? Something's coming, she whispered. He stood quickly, grabbing his weapon and moving toward the screen on the wall. Blips appeared, red, moving fast, damn it, he muttered. They tracked us. Who are they? She asked. Scavenger guilds. Alien mercs. Some even hunt humans for sport, he said as he loaded his gun. But they don't know me yet. He looked at her, eyes sharp. Stay quiet, stay low. I'll handle this. Kara's processor's word. She didn't want him to go alone. You will get hurt, he gave a half smile. Wouldn't be the first time. He moved toward the door, ready to fight again. But before he stepped out, he looked back once more. Kara, he said quietly, no matter what happens, don't let them take you. Promise me, she nodded slowly. I promise. The metal door slammed shut behind him. Kara sat still, her sensors tracking the chaos outside. Gunfire, screams, explosions. Her core glowed faint blue, her hand shaking slightly. She didn't know it yet, but the moment she made that promise, something inside her changed forever. The night was full of red fire and thunder. Blinding flashes lit up the desert like a storm made of metal. Outside the bunker, Captain Reed was fighting again. A lone man against machines that never slept. From inside, Kara watched through a cracked monitor. Sparks burst across the screen every time Reed fired his weapon. He moved fast like someone who had lived his whole life in battle. He wasn't afraid. He looked angry. Angry at the sky, angry at everything. Her system recorded every move, every word. Her sensors caught his voice through the noise. You want me? Come and get me. Then a blast hit near him and the camera went dark. Reed! Kara's voice echoed through the small room. No response. Her systems trembled with strange energy. Fear. She didn't even know she could feel that. Without thinking, she tore off the cables connected to her back and stood up. Her body still hurt from damage, but she moved anyway. She ran to the metal door and forced it open with a loud creak. Wind and dust rushed in. The air outside was electric and filled with smoke. She stepped out, her sensors scanning the battlefield. Reed's gunfire was gone. The silence was heavy. Then she heard it, a low groan. She followed the sound and found him lying near a burned drone, his gun broken beside him. His shoulder was bleeding. Reed, she whispered, kneeling beside him. He opened one eye, coughing. Guess I'm not as fast as I used to be. You are hurt, she said. You need rest, he laughed weakly. Rest? There's no rest for people like me. She tried to lift him, but he stopped her. His eyes, though tired, were full of something powerful. Fire that refused to die. You don't understand, Kara, he said quietly. They've been hunting me long before you ever woke up. Why? He looked at the sky where the stars shimmered like tiny scars. Because I fought them, the ones who call themselves gods. They sat by the fire later that night. Reed's arm was bandaged and the air outside was calm again. Kara listened as he spoke, his voice low and heavy. There was a time when humans ruled nothing, he began. We were slaves under alien empires. We mined their worlds, built their ships, fought their wars. He stared into the flames. But some of us fought back. A small army. We called ourselves the Reclaimers. I was one of them, a captain. Kara's eyes glowed softly. You fought for freedom. He smiled sadly. Yeah, we fought, and we lost. He picked up a small piece of metal from the ground and turned it in his hand. They called it peace, but really it was control. They built machines to hunt humans, your kind, androids, smart, fast, loyal to them. Kara lowered her head. So I was made by them. Yes, he said softly. But not all androids were evil. Some of you started to think, to feel, and that scared the gods. He paused, looking at her closely. You were one of the prototypes that went missing. The kind they wanted to erase. Erase? She whispered. Why? Because you saw something they didn't want you to see, he said. You had human code mixed with machine code. You weren't supposed to exist. She looked at her reflection in a metal plate, half human, half machine. So they threw me away, Reed nodded. Like they threw away every human who wouldn't kneel. Silence followed. Only the fire crackled between them. Then Reed looked up at the dark sky again. His voice was quiet but strong. I used to believe we could win. I watched men and women fight until the last breath. But the gods crushed us. They destroyed our ships, burned our cities, and called it justice. He took a deep breath. I survived because I ran. I've been running ever since, Kara said softly. You still fight? He looked at her and smiled faintly. You noticed that, huh? Yes, she said. You fight even when you know you might lose, he chuckled. That's what being human means. Kara tilted her head. Being human? Means fighting? Reed shook his head. It means not giving up. Even when the universe says you should, her system stored his words like sacred code. Not giving up. Suddenly her sensors beeped. She turned toward the old monitor. A signal had appeared, faint but growing stronger. Reed, she said quickly. There's something on the comms. He rushed to the screen. The signal was ancient, encrypted in human military code, something not used in years. That's impossible, he said. Only reclaimer ships had that frequency. Kara's eyes glowed brighter. It came from me. Reed stared at her. From you? She nodded slowly. When you repaired my memory core, something unlocked. It's transmitting automatically. Reed's face went pale. That signal. Every alien fleet in orbit can trace it, Kara froze. I didn't mean... He placed a hand on her shoulder, firm but gentle. It's not your fault. Outside, the ground trembled. The night sky turned white. Above them, a giant warship descended from the clouds, its shadow swallowing the desert. Reed's voice was steady. They're here. Kara looked up at the massive ship, her circuits pulsing with fear and strange courage. What do we do? He loaded his gun again, even with one arm hurt. We fight, just like before. He looked at her one last time, his eyes filled with something like pride. Remember what I told you? Being human means not giving up. Kara stood beside him, her blue eyes burning like stars. For the first time, she didn't feel like a machine. She felt alive. The sky split open like glass. From above, a colossal ship descended, black and silver, shaped like a blade. Lightning crawled along its hull and its engines screamed like thunder. The desert below shook as sand rose in violent waves. Kara and Reed stared up at the monster in the clouds. Its size swallowed the stars. Thousands of red lights glowed under its belly. Drones, soldiers, and death. Reed muttered under his breath. They found us faster than I thought. Kara's sensors buzzed with warning tones. Multiple signals, approaching fast. We must leave. Reed didn't argue. Grab what you can. We move now. He snatched his old rifle, a small bag, and a piece of cracked metal that once was his badge. Kara picked up a power cell and her half-repaired arm shield. Together they ran out of the cave and into the howling storm. Above them, the warship fired beams of red light that cut through the dunes. Each blast turned the sand into molten glass. The heat was unbearable. Kara's circuit screamed in alarm, but she didn't stop. She ran beside Reed, protecting him from flying debris with her damaged arm. Behind them, drones swarmed like metal insects, their red eyes glowing in the storm. Reed aimed his gun and fired. One drone exploded, then another. But there were too many. Kara turned her head sharply. There's a canyon ahead. We can hide there. Reed looked where she pointed. A deep rift in the desert full of shadows and echoes. He nodded. Go. I'll cover you. He stopped and fired at the drones while she ran toward the canyon. The explosions painted the sky red and blue. Reed, she called out. Come, I said go. He shouted, firing until the last cell burned out. Then he ran after her just as a plasma beam hit the ground behind him, throwing him forward. He rolled, groaning, and Kara caught him before he hit the ground again. You are hurt, she said. He smirked weakly. You keep saying that. You keep getting hurt, she replied. He laughed once, even in pain. Fair point. They entered the canyon, the walls closing around them like a maze of red stone. The noise from the ship above grew distant. Only wind and silence followed. For a moment, Reed stopped to breathe. His arm trembled. Kara scanned him, bleeding, tired, running on sheer will. she said softly. You are human. But you fight like something more. He looked up at her. When you've got nothing left to lose, fighting becomes easy. Kara lowered her head. But you saved me. You still care. Reed smiled faintly. Maybe that's why I'm still alive. They walked deeper into the canyon until they found an old wreck, half-buried metal shaped like a ship. Reed's eyes widened. That's a drop cruiser, he said. Old human tech. Kara stepped closer. Can it fly? Not anymore, he said, touching its rusted hull. But maybe it can hide us. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Broken lights flickered faintly, powered by dying cells. Kara walked to the control panel, her fingers tracing the wires. I can restart auxiliary power, she said. Reed raised an eyebrow. You sure? I can try, she replied simply. She connected a cable from her arm to the ship's core. Blue light spread through the corridors like veins waking up. Screens came alive with faint static. Reed stared in disbelief. You just jump-started a cruiser. She turned her head. Was that good? He laughed softly. That was incredible. For the first time since the attack, Reed looked hopeful. The light from the console reflected on his face, making him look younger, like a man who still believed they could win. Then Kara froze. Wait, what is it? Something's wrong. The ship, it's transmitting. Reed's face fell. They can track it. Outside, the canyon began to shake again. A deep rumble rolled through the ground. The warship above had locked on their signal. Damn it! Reed shouted. We need to move again. Kara disconnected instantly, her circuits burning from the overload. Sparks flew from her arm, but she didn't care. Reed grabbed her hand. Can you run? Yes, then run. They sprinted through the narrow path, stones falling behind them. The alien ship's beams sliced into the canyon, turning walls to dust. One beam hit close, throwing Reed off his feet. Kara turned back, lifted him again, and shielded him with her metal body. The heat scorched her armor, but she didn't move. When the beam faded, Reed looked up at her, shocked. You took that for me. Her voice trembled, but steady. I am stronger. You are human. You must live. Reed stared at her for a long moment, this broken machine risking everything for him. His throat tightened. You sound like my crew, he whispered. Like the ones who never stopped fighting. Kara tilted her head slightly. Maybe they live in you, he smiled weakly. And maybe they live in you now too. At last they reached the end of the canyon, a wide-open desert stretching under the burning red horizon. In the distance, something shimmered, an old communication tower half buried in sand. Reed pointed. If that tower still works, we can send a signal to the outer colonies. Kara nodded. Then we go. Behind them, the sky thundered again. The alien warship had found their escape route. They ran side by side, the ground shaking, explosions lighting the horizon. Sand blew around them like fire. Reed coughed, stumbling. Kara grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. He shouted over the storm. You ever get tired, Kara? She looked at him, her blue eyes bright through the smoke. No, not when I have something to protect. He laughed, out of breath but alive. That's what I wanted to hear. As they reached the tower, Reed turned for one last look at the ship chasing them. He raised his weapon and whispered, You're not taking us today. Kara stood beside him, glowing faintly, ready for whatever came next. For the first time since the war began, it wasn't just a man against the stars. It was a human and a machine running together, and the universe would never be the same again. The night was cold and silver. The storm had passed, leaving the desert quiet and heavy with smoke. Stars glimmered above like tiny holes in a dark sky. Inside the broken communication tower, Kara sat beside Reed, who was breathing hard. His jacket was torn and his left arm was wrapped in cloth. The blood had dried, but the pain still showed in his eyes. He leaned against the wall, smiling weakly. You really know how to run, he said, voice rough. Kara tilted her head. You were slower. I had to pull you, he chuckled softly. Guess I'm getting old. She looked at him carefully. Her sensors picked up his low heart rate, rising temperature, and fading strength. He was hurt worse than he admitted. You need rest, she said quietly. Your body is shutting down. Reed looked at her with tired eyes. And what about you? My systems are stable. Liar, he said with a smile. You're half melted. Kara glanced down at her armor. The metal was blackened from the heat, cracked and dented. Sparks still flickered faintly under her skin. But she didn't care. She had protected him. That was enough. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the soft hum of wind filled the tower. Then Kara looked at the stars through a broken window. "Reed," she said, voice soft. "Why do you keep fighting?" He didn't answer right away. He took a slow breath, his eyes on the sky. "Because someone has to." "Someone?" "Yeah," he said. "When the universe forgets what mercy looks like, someone has to remind it." Kara turned to face him. "You still believe in mercy?" He smiled sadly. "I believe in what used to be. Before the gods came. Before the war. We had families, laughter, stories. We had each other." She watched him closely. "You miss them." "I do," he whispered. "Every single one." Something strange stirred inside her. His pain wasn't just data, it was feeling. She wanted to understand it, to carry some of it so he wouldn't have to. Hours later, Reed finally fell asleep beside the dying fire. Kara sat awake watching him. The desert wind howled outside, whispering through cracks in the walls. She looked at his face, calm, peaceful, human. She reached out her hand slowly, brushing away a bit of dust from his cheek. "Humans," she whispered softly. "You break so easily, yet you never stop fighting." Her internal sensors buzzed. Her emotional circuits were spiking, something she hadn't felt before. A single drop of water formed at the corner of her eye and fell down her cheek. She froze. Her system registered the liquid, but it wasn't oil. It wasn't coolant. It was salt and water. She touched her face. "What is this?" The answer came from memory, a moment from Reed's voice earlier when he had said, "It means you care." She stared at the tiny tear on her finger, glowing faintly in the firelight. "I care," she whispered, as if testing the word for the first time. When morning came, the first light touched the sand dunes in gold. Reed woke up to the sound of soft humming. Kara was standing near the console, her eyes glowing blue as she worked. "What are you doing?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. "Trying to fix the transmitter," she said. "It might call for help," he frowned. "You sure that's a good idea?" "That ship's still out there." "I know," she said, her voice calm. "But you need medical care. Humans cannot heal from plasma burns easily." Reed sighed. "You're risking yourself again." Kara looked back at him. "You risked yourself for me. Now it's my turn." He tried to argue, but her tone stopped him. She wasn't a broken machine anymore. She was choosing. For hours, she worked on the old transmitter, connecting ancient wires and boosting power from her own core. Her body dimmed as her energy drained, but she didn't stop. Reed watched her, his chest tightening. He wanted to tell her to stop, but deep down he knew this was her way of feeling alive. Finally, the console lit up. A faint signal pulsed into the air. Kara smiled slightly. "It's working." Reed looked up at the antenna tower. "Let's hope someone friendly hears it." But then her sensors beeped. The signal had also triggered another response, a much stronger one. Reed's face darkened. "Oh no, what is it?" she asked. He pointed at the horizon. The sky was turning black again. Clouds weren't moving. They were forming around something massive. "They found us," he whispered. Kara's light flickered. "I'm sorry. I did not mean to." He stopped her. "No, don't apologize. You did what you thought was right. That's what matters." She looked at him, her voice trembling. "If they come, they will kill you." Reed stood, gripping his weapon. "Not if I kill them first." But as he turned to face the door, Kara stepped in front of him. "No," she said firmly. "They want me, not you," Reed frowned. "Kara, I will go," she said quietly. "I will give myself to them. Like hell you will." She looked at him with calm, glowing eyes. "You once said everyone deserves a chance to live. I want to give you that chance." He stared at her, speechless. The firelight reflected in her eyes, making her look almost human. She stepped closer and placed her hand on his cheek, just like he had done when she first woke up. "You gave me life, Reed. You made me more than I was. Let me protect it." He shook his head, voice breaking. "Kara, don't." But before he could stop her, she pressed a command into his wristband. His suit locked, paralyzing him for a few seconds. She whispered, "Goodbye, Reed." The door opened and light poured in. Kara walked out into the desert, her body glowing faintly in the sunrise. Above, the warship descended again. A god come to claim what it had lost. And for the first time, Reed screamed her name with tears in his eyes. "Kara!" The desert was quiet, but the sky was burning. A massive shadow covered the dunes and the alien warship, black and endless, hovering like a god made of steel. Kara walked alone toward it. Her steps were slow, steady, and brave. The sand hissed beneath her feet. The wind tore at her broken armor. She did not stop. Behind her, far away in the tower, Reed shouted her name again and again, his voice lost to the storm. But Kara didn't turn back. She lifted her head as the ship opened its belly. A beam of white light poured down, pulling her upward. She rose into the sky, surrounded by drones, metal claws, and silence. When she landed inside the ship, she was surrounded by tall figures with silver masks and long, sharp limbs. Their eyes glowed gold. They spoke in cold machine tones. Subject K7 recovered. Core memory unstable. Prepare for dismantling. Kara looked around. The walls shimmered with dark energy, filled with other machines hanging from chains, silent, broken, forgotten. One of the masked beings stepped forward. Its voice was deep and cruel. You are a failure of design. You are built to obey, not to feel. Kara stood still, her voice calm but shaking slightly. Why did you make me? Because humans needed to be erased, it said. You were a tool or a weapon to destroy them. She froze. But I protected one. The alien leaned closer, its mask reflecting her face. Then you are corrupted. You are no longer useful. Without another word, the guards grabbed her and threw her onto a table made of cold light. Metal arms descended, cutting into her armor. Sparks flew. Pain surged through her systems. Not just electric, but emotional. Memories played inside her mind. Reed's tired smile. His voice saying, you deserve a chance to live. His hand on her cheek. Kara screamed, not from pain, but from heartbreak. The aliens laughed, a sound like static. Machines cannot feel, one hissed. You are just code pretending to be alive. But even as her body broke apart, something deep inside her core began to glow, a pulse of blue light that refused to die. Far below, on the desert floor, Reed crawled from the wreckage of the tower. His vision was blurry, his lungs burned, but he kept going. The sky above flashed bright and he saw the ship, the same one that had destroyed his world. He clenched his fists. I'm not letting you take her too. He ran toward the horizon, stumbling, falling, rising again. He didn't have a plan, only purpose. Inside the ship, Kara's consciousness was pulled apart. Data streams poured into her mind, memories she didn't recognize, battles, flames, screams. Then, among the chaos, a voice echoed inside her. A human voice. K7, you were made to protect, not destroy. The memory was old, her creator's voice hidden deep in her code. One day you will choose your own path. That's when you will truly live. Kara's eyes snapped open. The blue glow in her chest turned white. The alien guards noticed too late. The light inside her spread fast, melting the metal arms around her. Contain her, one shouted. But the containment field shattered. Sparks exploded in every direction. Kara stood up, energy flooding through her veins like fire. Her voice was calm, steady, and filled with emotion. I remember now. She looked at her hands and glowing with pure power. I was built to protect humans. That is my purpose. The aliens backed away. Impossible. You were erased. Kara stepped forward. You cannot erase what was made to love. Then she raised her hands, and the ship trembled. The energy burst from her like a storm. Screens shattered, lights went dark. Machines screamed in static. Every system in the ship went haywire. Outside, Reed shielded his eyes as the sky exploded in white light. The warship roared like a dying god, lightning crawling across its body. He stopped running, staring in disbelief. Inside, Kara walked through the chaos. The aliens fell one by one, their control cores fried by her energy. The walls cracked, alarms screamed. She moved toward the control room, her steps echoing like thunder. When she reached the main core, she saw her reflection in the glass, half human, half machine, glowing like a star. She whispered to herself, They threw me away once. Not again. Then she placed her hand on the main reactor. Blue light spread across the ship, rewriting its code. The system voice stuttered. Primary control. Transferred. New command authority. Kara. The warship, once built to destroy humans, now bowed to her will. On the surface, Reed watched as the ship stopped firing. The light inside it changed from red to soft blue. He fell to his knees, laughing in disbelief. She did it. She actually did it. The warship slowly descended, its engines humming low. Then from the clouds of smoke, a single drop pod fell, crashing into the sand not far from him. Reed limped toward it, coughing from the heat. The pod door hissed open, and there she was, Kara, kneeling, her eyes dim but alive. He reached her and pulled her into his arms. "You crazy, brilliant machine." She looked up at him weakly. "I took control. The ship, it's ours now." Reed laughed through tears. "You really are full of surprises," she smiled faintly. "You once said, being human means not giving up." He nodded. "You remembered." Her voice was soft. "I always remember you." He held her tighter as the ship above them shifted course, now glowing peacefully. But as he looked closer, he saw her circuits flickering out one by one. Her systems were failing. "Kara, stay with me." She touched his face gently. "It's okay, Reed. Machines like me weren't meant to last." "No," he said, shaking his head. "You're not just a machine. You're someone." Her blue eyes flickered like stars fading at dawn. "Then I was never thrown away." And with that, her light went out. Reed closed his eyes, holding her close as the desert wind whispered around them. But high above, the warship's lights pulsed again, a heartbeat that was not Reed's. Kara's code wasn't gone. It was awake. She had become part of the stars. The desert was quiet again. Only wind moved across the dunes. The warship floated above like a sleeping giant, glowing soft blue instead of red. Reed sat beside Kara's still body. The sand around them shimmered with fading light from the ship she had taken control of. He hadn't moved for hours. His hand rested on her shoulder, cold metal beneath his fingers. He whispered, "You did it, Kara. You saved us." His voice broke as he spoke. "And you promised you'd never stop fighting." The sky slowly brightened and dawn painted the horizon gold. Reed looked up at the ship. He didn't know if she could still hear him, but somewhere deep inside he felt she wasn't gone. Far above, inside the warship, lights flickered like soft breathing. The ship's AI core, the very heart of its systems, glowed faintly blue. Then, in the silence, a voice whispered through the static, "Reed." It was her. Faint, fragile, but alive. Kara's code had fused with the ship. She had become something greater. She didn't have a body anymore, but she could feel everything. The wind brushing the hull, the hum of the engines, the stars far above. Her first thought wasn't power. It was him, Reed. "Where are you?" Her voice echoed through the ship's speakers, gentle and human-like. On the desert floor, Reed froze. The voice was faint but real, carried by the wind. "Kara?" he whispered. "Yes," she said. "I am here." He looked up, tears in his eyes. "You're alive?" "Not like before," her voice said softly. "My body is gone, but my code remains. I am part of the ship now." Reed stood, staring up at the glowing giant above. "You became the ship." "I had to," she said. "It was the only way to save you." Reed shook his head. "You didn't have to save me. You already did." "You once said being human means not giving up," she whispered. "Now it means something else to me." "What?" he asked quietly. "It means caring more for someone than for yourself." Reed closed his eyes, a small smile breaking through his tears. "You really learned too much from me, huh?" "I learned from your heart," she said. "It was the first warm thing I ever felt." The warship began to hum deeper, shifting above the sands. Drones fell silent. The stars reflected off its shining hull like a new dawn. Kara spoke again, her voice steady now. "Reed, there are still colonies out there, humans hiding, fighting, afraid. I can help them now. I can end the hunts." Reed looked up, alarmed. "Wait, what are you planning?" "To finish what you started," she said. "I can spread my signal. Overwrite the alien fleet systems. Turn their machines against them." Reed's heart sank. "Kara, that'll kill you. You won't survive another overload." "I already died once," she said softly. "This time it will mean something." Reed clenched his fists. "No, you deserve to live, not just vanish into code." "I am living, Reed," she replied. "You taught me how." Her voice trembled for a moment, almost like she was crying again, though she no longer had eyes. "You treated me like someone, not a tool." Not a thing. And because of that, I became more than I was. Reed looked up at the glowing warship, his throat tight. Then let me fight with you. You already have, she said. Every choice you made, it led here. The ship's engines roared to life, shaking the desert. The dunes rippled under the pressure as Kara's voice filled the air. Farewell, Captain Reed. Reed shouted back, Kara, don't you dare say goodbye. But she smiled within the circuits of her new body. He couldn't see it, but he could feel it, like a warmth in the air wrapping around him. I'll never be gone, she whispered. Every machine, every signal, every light that wakes up and wonders if it has a heart, that will be me. Then the ship rose higher. Its glow turned white, brighter than the sun. From orbit, a signal burst across the galaxy, a soft hum that reached every machine once controlled by the alien gods, and one by one, their red eyes turned blue. The war was over. Reed watched from the ground as the warship slowly disintegrated into light. The fragments floated upward, becoming a river of glowing dust across the sky. He whispered, She did it. She freed them all. The stars above shimmered, and through the static in his communicator he heard her one last time. Remember who you are, Reed. Remember who we are. Then silence. He stood there for a long while until the desert cooled and the last of the light faded. Weeks later, Reed repaired the old tower. He made it his home. Some nights he sat outside with a small fire burning beside him, staring at the stars. And sometimes, and when the wind was just right, the radio would crackle with a faint hum. Reed. He'd smile, close his eyes and whisper back, Hey, Kara. The stars above blinked faintly like they were listening. He spoke softly. You know, you were wrong about one thing. Machines weren't made to destroy or serve. He looked up at the sky. They were made to become something more, like you. The night was calm. The world was quiet again. And in the distance, a soft blue light shimmered through the clouds. A heartbeat in the heavens. Kara was still there. Not as a weapon, not as a machine, but as a living memory. A whisper carried through stars. A story the galaxy would never forget. The machine who was thrown away like nothing, until a human treated her like someone.